What's up, Mellow Heads? It's been a few weeks, but welcome back to the Mellow Buzz Juke Joint, where there's never a cover and no drink minimum. The last time we saw each other, you were getting to know my dad's favorite group, Hank Ballard and the Midnighters. This week, I couldn't be more excited. Before I introduce this week's artist, please, if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button and make sure that you have the notifications on so you know when there's a new artist. Also, go follow me on Twitter, @TheMellowBuzz. So without further ado, this week, on the main stage, is the underappreciated Chicago soul singer Willie Parker. So please, pull up a seat and prepare to be entertained. Willie Newsome was born on the 3rd of January 1944 in Magee, Mississippi, to Frank and Luvenna Newsome. Willie lived in Hattiesburg, Mississippi for the first 10 years of his life. He started singing at a very young age, and at 5 years old, he wanted to join his uncle's gospel quartet. And already at 5, he knew he wanted to sing professionally, but his parents wouldn't let him. While living in Hattiesburg, Willie attended the 3rd Ward Elementary School and would sing at any school function that would allow him. When Willie was 10, his mother took him and his brother along with his grandmother and moved north to Joliet, Illinois. The family started to attend the Mount Zion Baptist Church, where Willie would sing in the church's choir. Willie would become quite the singer, garnering interest from the Chariot Wheels, an adult male gospel group. And with his mother's permission, Willie would perform with them at venues all over Joliet and Chicago until he was 13. Junior Adams, Willie's neighbor, heard Willie sing while performing on a local street corner with his friends and wanted him to come sing at the Rock Run, a club he owned. With a promise from Junior that no one would introduce him to alcohol, his mother allowed it. Willie was also performing with his band at the Peter Claver Center. Lawrence Parker, a youth worker at the center, would become his first manager and introduced Willie to the club circuit. Willie was underage, so to get him in the clubs, Lawrence would say he was his nephew, giving him his first stage name, Willie Parker. It wasn't long after that Willie found himself in the recording studio. In 1958, while still in high school, saxophonist Lorenzo Smith and his band, the house band at the Rock Run, brought Willie in to record. Harry Glenn of Marvell Records would reserve studio time at the famed Chess Studio for the group. Billed as Little Willie Parker, Willie and Lorenzo would write and record Looking In From the Outside, the only song Willie would ever sing that was his own, and Lorenzo would compose Too Much Firewater, an instrumental for the B-side. In 1962, once Willie was done with high school, Lorenzo asked him to be the band's permanent singer. Willie couldn't have been happier, until he realized being a full-time musician couldn't pay the bills. So Willie got a job at a dry cleaner's pressing clothes. He would work during the day and hit the clubs with Lorenzo at night and on the weekends. Throughout the early and mid-60s, they would play at the hottest clubs in Chicago. They would play at the Cameo Social, the Civic Club, and the Blue Tiger, to name a few. Somewhere along the line, Eddie Silvers, a producer with Wonderful Records, heard Willie perform and brought him aboard. In 1966, Willie would enter the studio and record I've Gotta Fight It and Let's Start a Thing. Eddie would produce the single and release it on the subsidiary label MPAC. Also in 1966, Willie married his high school sweetheart, Patricia Ann. They would go on to have 2 children, Frankie Jr. and Charla. With newfound family responsibilities, Willie would get a job with Caterpillar Earth Moving Equipment Plant in Joliet. He wasn't ready to give up his dream of being a famous soul singer yet. In 1967, still working with Eddie and MPAC, Willie would release Salute to Lovers and Don't Hurt the One You Love. Don't Hurt the One You Love would become an underground soul hit. So much so, it would get released a few months later as an A-side, with a new B-side, The Town I Live In. Willie would also release I Live the Life I Love and You've Got a Finger in My Eye in 1967. He would also record So Glad and Never in a Million Years, but before they could be released, Wonderful went bankrupt. Thinking his recording career was over, Willie joined Elements of Sound as their lead singer. The group was a cover band that would perform in Joliet and the surrounding areas. He stayed with the group until 1971. In 1968, Willie would hook up with Alan Williams, a former calypso musician from the 1950s who went by Zono Sago. Willie would adopt the new stage name of Frankie Newsome. Frankie and Zono would go on to record a few records, the first being It's a Shame and Taunting Love, written and produced by Zono in 1968 for USA Records. This record showed off Frankie's softer soulfulness. In 1969, Frankie would finally make some noise nationally. My Lucky Day Part 1 and 2, released on Sagport Records, would enter the national R&B charts for 3 weeks, peaking at 42. It wasn't the smash hit he was hoping for, and sadly it was the only time he would be listed on the charts. Frankie and Zono would record 2 more records in 1970. Don't Mess With My Lovemaker for Savan Records, and Last Bus from Tulupo, and Comin' On Strong, Stayin' Long. Neither record did anything, and pretty much discouraged Frankie from recording. He would take one more swing at recording, and in 1974, Warner Brothers were willing to take a chance and put veteran writer-producer Johnny Moore behind him. Warner Brothers would only release 1 record, We're On Our Way Part 1 and 2, and it fell flat. Willie would still play the clubs of Chicago through 1975. He would make his home at the High Chaparral Show Club, playing his final gig in March of 1975. Now, Frankie and Patricia had just divorced, and Frankie was tired and disappointed that he never became the superstar he knew he could be, and quit singing professionally. He continued working at Caterpillar, a job he never gave up, and reconnected with his gospel roots. And Willie would marry again to a woman ironically named Patricia Ann, and they would go on to have 2 daughters, Shannon and Tamika, and a son, Brian. In 1999, Willie would reemerge and sing in the Georgia Francis Orchestra until 2011. And in 2015, Secret Stash Records out of Minnesota bought the record labels Willie had recorded for and would re-release his work, including the never-before-issued records recorded for MPAC. Secret Stash reached out to Willie to see if he wanted to perform at the New Century Soul 12th Anniversary All-Nighter at the Radcliffe Civic Centre in the UK. On November 28, 2015, Willie Newsome would perform live for the last time. He would be diagnosed with cancer sometime after, and while working on a new album, Willie would pass away in September of 2019. Willie may never have been the superstar he sought out to be. Nevertheless, he left an incredible mark on the Chicago soul scene. So let's celebrate the life of the revered Willie Parker and listen to I've Gotta Fight It.
My baby, yes she is. I love her still, always will, and I don't mean maybe. Oh no, she's gonna change now, and that's no lie. Time will arrange something by and by. Love is a strange feeling, and that's why I got to fight it. Got to fight this thing deep down inside. Connect with a lot of talking. Can't do it that way, baby. Oh no, she's hard to cop. Tell her stop. She'll keep right on walking. Oh yes, she will. Why must she be all that's on my mind? I can't be free 'cause my heart's confined. She's it to me, and since love is blind, I got to fight all this. Got to win this love for myself somehow. Everyone says it's not right. People just don't understand. Handle this thing with all my might. I got to fight it with love, the only weapon at hand. Yeah! All right! You know what I'm talking about. Ooh, yeah. Look ahead. We got a thing on the wing. I can feel it coming on strong now. Oh, yeah. I know for sure she's the cure for my poor heart strumming. Yes, she is. I'm positively convinced she'll grow. Life has to give something more than more. Man's gotta live for himself, and so I got to fight it. Got to fight this love deep down inside. Got to win this love for myself somehow.
And that was Willie Parker, I've Gotta Fight It. Now this is something I wouldn't have expected in my dad's collection, but I like it. It kind of reminds me of something out of Superfly or The Mac, if you've ever seen those movies. I definitely like his soul sound. I liked his voice. I don't know, there's just something funky about it. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave me a comment down below. Let me know how I'm doing. Hopefully this video will look a little different. Got some new hardware coming this week, so hopefully it'll be here in time for me to do the editing. Hope you all enjoyed it. I'm Mike P. I'll have a great day, and this is the Mellow Buzz, and thank you.